everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. So today we took a chance on a movie, and it looked interesting, the trailer. Okay, so we decided to watch Mr. Crocket. Um when you watch the trailer, it specifically reminded me of a certain somebody whose character is called into question. He was locked up for a little while. He's geriatric, but anyway, that whole picture reminded me of him because for a minute he did have like a children's show and a cartoon, and that elongated, exaggerated chin. That's what
I thought
reminded
that
me.
I thought that he was out though.
No, he's out. I said was. Past
Oh,
tense.
okay.
Past tense. Pay attention.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, what am I talking about? We're talking about Mr. Crocket. You can watch this on Hulu. Now, this was done as a 6-minute short on Hulu for, I think they call it their Halloween Bites, in 2022. So if this looks familiar, that's why. I didn't see it back then. I couldn't find it now. So anyway, what is this film about? He is a children's television character. In seeing what they put together for the movie, it will remind you of Little Mr. Rogers, a Little Barney, PBS type programming where you have this extremely happy character interacting with kids, finding cute little fun things to do with them. In mentioning Barney, and it's kind of an important parallel, by the way, this takes place in 1993?
Yes.
1993. So in 1992 is when Barney first hit the scene in the real world. And by 1993, there were literal news reports about parents who did not know what to do because when they would turn Barney off, their toddlers would throw temper tantrums. And so these parents were in distress. They didn't know what to do. They were concerned that Barney had such a hold over their children. But when they had Barney on, kids were fine. They were quiet. They were happy. They were singing the cleanup song. They were singing I love you, you love me. Everything was right with the world. That died down by 1996, roughly. Okay. So this is kind of what the Mr. Crocket character is. We'll get to hit Mr. Crockett's backstory in a minute. Let me tell you a bit about the cast. Mr. Crocket is played by Elvis Nolasco. He's been in the Equalizer TV series, Godfather of Harlem, and also She's Gotta Have It, amongst many other things. In the opening clip, you see Rhonda with her son Darren, and the stepfather. Rhonda is played by Crystalline Lloyd. She's been in Blue Bloods, Chicago Med, and Random Acts of Flyness, which was on HBO. Darren, bad little boy. Bad little boy. We're going to talk about that too. Anyway, he's a bad little boy. He was played by Jabari Striblin, and this is his debut role. Summer was Major's mother. She's been in Hunters, A Man in Full, and Grey's Anatomy. And Major, who is Summer's son, is played by Aidan Gavin. He's in Big George Foreman, Killing It, and Sacrifice. And then there's Eddie. Let me make sure I say his name right. Played by Alex Akabomi. He's been in Based on a True Story, which I believe is on Netflix, Industry, and 20s. These are your main players in the film. All right. So when this opens up, we meet Darren and Rhonda, and Mr. Crocket is playing in the background. Uh, Darren isn't eating his food. First of all, he didn't want to stop watching Mr. Crocket. The stepfather was like, "Get over here now, eat your food." Darren sat down at the table, and his mother was like, "Sweetheart, come on, eat your vegetables, eat something, gentle parenting, gentle parenting." And the stepdad was like, "Nah, we're not going to sit here and baby him and handhold him." And he grabbed the spoon and started force feeding, trying to force feed Darren. Darren sitting in the table in tears, and Mr. Crocket on the TV set said, and then all hell broke loose. Okay. Mr. Crocket was kidnapping kids. Oh, did I mention Mr. Crocket was dead already? Okay. You see her face?
So much wrong.
She has a serious problem with this movie. We'll tell you right now. This has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 5.5.
It was like 5.7 or something like that.
5.7. As far as a horror movie goes, and again, this was stated in the reviews, this is like a B movie. Okay? It's creepy when the guts and blood thing happens. You're sitting here like, but then there's funny parts that you can't help but go, what the heck did I just watch? Because that's all throughout the movie. At one point, she actually said, "I'm really glad they did that in cartoon form," because she didn't know if she could handle it.
It was that, but also, like, it was just, the whole thing to me is comical. Like, the movie itself is funny to me. And then when they did the cartoon thing, it really just iced the cake for me. So I said, okay, I see what type of movie this is. And I was happy. Like, it's crazy because as many things that is wrong with this movie that I found, I actually kind of like it, but it's just like there's so much wrong.
Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I told you about the passive parenting. Now, this is not every black parent, but black parents don't play that mess. We're not going to do the honey, sweetheart. Listen, eat that food or you get absolutely nothing. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my money. If you're not going to eat, then fine. I won't feed you for the next 3 days. That's extreme. But basically, that's kind of where black folks live. We are not playing with our kids. Okay? When we meet, who is it? Summer and Major. Major's father had just passed away. He was in a temper, he was in a fit, which you can understand. Rhonda is now a single mom. She's trying to take care of her son and worry about his well-being, losing his dad. He's only 8 years old. And at the same time, she's trying to juggle grief and readjusting to life without her husband. At the funeral, Darren was like, "I don't want to go. I don't want to be in there." And she's like, "Listen, just come on. This is what your dad would want. Just come on in, sit down. It's not going to be that long." He says, "Well, excuse me, can I take my video game? This little Sega handheld game." And she said, "Fine." And he sat there, he tuned out the funeral, and he played his game. She gets back home, and he's reading out the book of acting up, throwing tantrums, saying what he don't want to do. And it got to the point where she blew up. She hit her limit, after all the gentle parenting. And she was like, "You know what? You don't understand what I'm doing for you. I wish I wasn't your mother." Why'd she say that? Because here comes Mr. Crocket. Mr. Crocket. He showed up in a little library, and there should be a picture on your screen of what a little library is in case you've never seen one. These are in usually suburban neighborhoods where, you could put a book, or in this case, a video in, and somebody else can come along and borrow it, and they can put another book in. It's a nice little book exchange. Well, it was put outside her house coincidentally, and lo and behold, a Mr. Crocket VHS was in there. And she let her son watch it, and all of a sudden, the Barney effect took place. Her son sat down, he watched it, he was just fine. And then mom had that blow up. And once again, the characters in the TV. And next thing you know, here comes Mr. Crocket in her living room taking her son, who is hypnotized, and saying, "Oh no, it'll be fine." So this is the crux of the story. Spoiler alert, she does get her son back with the help of Rhonda, and then another gentleman who came on the scene and said, "I lost my daughter too. Let me help you find your son. We can work together." His name was Alex, and that was played by Alex Akabome. So, all in all, as we stated before, I like the movie.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a B-rated movie, because you will watch it and say things like, a black parent would never. You will watch it and say, well, why didn't she just?
I was even, at a certain point, I was even kind of like, I wish they restructured this part of the movie differently. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it was the part where, I think it was like in the beginning, when everything kind of started going down. Mm-hmm. with Summer and her child, I felt like there should have been some tweaks with that storytelling wise. I just felt that way.
Okay.
So like, I just felt kind of like maybe they should have added a family member that came and stayed with them.
Yeah.
There might have been some little snippets or flashbacks of the dad a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have done a little more in that.
Maybe
area.
Even some backstory, like flashbacks of Mr. Crocket. Like, I just feel like those... They did get to that, but I felt like if they gave us that kind of in the beginning... Mm-hmm.
It would have pulled you in.
It would have flowed a little bit better. Yeah. I don't know. The movie, again, it's good, but I just feel like to make it an A movie, there was just some little tweaks that could have been done, and it probably would have been better. Mm-hmm. But... There's just this movie just I don't know, man. It just takes me over the edge.
She's not blood and guts.
Well, no,
I'm not really either.
It's not even that. It's the way things were handled in this movie.
They just jumped right in, basically.
Because honestly, not for nothing, but the movie wasn't even like super gory. Now, because I don't do the whole slasher and like watching people get sliced and diced and shot up and all that, I will cover my eyes on certain things. But even like, once they walked in on a certain scene and there was a dead body and the head was off and all that, it really wasn't that bad. It's just that like, the way things were going down in this movie had me puzzled. Because there's just certain things, like my mom said, if this happened in real life, things would not pan out this way.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So we mentioned Mr. Crockett's backstory. We'll give you this much. Because it won't give anything away in telling you this. Basically, so I mentioned he's a PBS character. I don't know if some of you had this in your area when cable TV was a thing before streaming happened. But I know in this area we had the public access channels, and there were locals who created and produced and aired children's programming. Okay, so Mr. Crocket was that type of person. He was from the community where all of this stuff was happening, and he was pretty much a one-man show, but he was struggling with this show. Part of the reason why he even did the Mr. Crocket show was because he was abused as a child. This is also why he's come back from the dead to snatch up other people's children. He was abused as a child, and he, I guess when he was of a certain age, decided to unalive his father and make it look like his father unalived himself. And so that became his MO when he went to gather these children that he thought were being abused, mistreated, and when he brought them into his world, they could have ice cream all day, they could stay up late, because he felt like that's what he should have had in his childhood. I'm gonna let y'all do with that once you will, because again, a black parent would never. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the Rotten Tomatoes score. However, I think this could become a cult classic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's horror, it's equal parts horror, comedy, and what's the other word I'm looking for? Horror, comedy, and corny.
Yeah, like it's...
You know, it's just enough corny that you go, oh my gosh. And I can tell you right now, they already set this thing up for a part 2. And I'm ready for it.
And there shouldn't be one, but that's my personal opinion.
I want to see
I can't
what they do with
piece
the part 2.
because it's going to ruin it for the viewers, and I don't want to do that. But
no.
This should not be a part 2, because there's just things that could have been done to avoid any of this stuff even happening in the first place.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and say it. They should have took Mr. Crocker's head off if they wanted to end it right here.
Well,
but they left
not only
it.
that.
They left it more than his head should have.
Because honestly,
but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, because
that needed to happen too.
Because if you think about it, he's immortal, like in his world and all that. Like,
because he
no matter how many times we slice and dice him, that's not really. But there's other elements of how Mr. Crocket is doing this stuff that is causing this, and that said thing should have been destroyed. But no, nobody's seeing this, and it's just all gonna come out in wash at some point. But they'll, of course, for Hollywood's sake and for making movies, they gotta create these sequels and everything. But whenever I watch a horror movie or like a creepy film or something, and at the end of it, you start seeing dolls' heads turn back around after they were killed, supposedly, or ghosts reemerge and stuff. I'm like, y'all didn't do what y'all was supposed to do. If y'all did what y'all was supposed to do, none of this would even be happening right now.
Look, Mr. Crocket is one of Bebe's kids.
What was it?
He ain't dying.
What was it we were watching? Deliverance? That was another one. See? None of this stuff would be happening if you guys handle things correctly. House plot should have been sealed off with cement, prayed over, sprinkled with the Holy Ghost and holy water. And none of this stuff.
You forgot the oil. You need some oil, a cross.
None of this stuff. That's why I just sit here and I'm just shaking my head, because it's like, just, especially when it involves African American people.
Mm-hmm. Right. But it's fun to see Black people in these roles.
And they can't make it where I am realizing they can't make it too realistic, because then it would literally be a 30-minute movie.
Black folks would shut stuff down. It would be an episode and not a film.
So exactly. We're moving out of scene. Like, that's what it would have been.
It's like, look, I grew up here, but we can leave here. This is not a problem. So anyway, in spite of the Rotten Tomatoes rating, I will say that this is worth sitting down and watching if you are on your horror movie rampage this month.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. It's okay, and I know some people, because we said blood and guts are involved. What I'm going to say next, they're going to be like, you guys are sick. We're not sick. We told you this is part horror, part comedy. This is a fun watch.
Yeah.
As far as horror movies go.
And it's a conversation piece for sure. Like, if you watch this with a group of friends around Halloween time, it's something that's not only like a obvious seasonal film to watch, but you guys can kind of powwow off of each other and see what your thoughts are after the movie.
Oh, and right now, I don't know what the writers had against LeVar Burton, but that's another reason why this thing is a 6 point whatever. Because Mr. Crocket says something that
we don't
come at LeVar Burton like that. Okay. And for that reason, Mr. Crocket deserved what he got, and he needs to get some more of that. So we definitely need a part 2 so we can see him get his butt kicked some more.
Okay.
So that's all I have. You have anything you want to add?
No, I would give this movie like a solid 7.5 out of 10.
Even with what he said about LeVar Burton?
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, even what he said, it's just like, it's a good movie.
Okay.
I just think if it was arranged differently, and if he didn't say what he said about the Reading Rainbow, it probably would have been like a more popular and probably more mainstream type thing. Like, it probably would have been that, but I just think, I don't know, man.
I think they need to put LeVar Burton in the next one. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that would be hilarious.
Thank you for joining us. I would love to hear what you think about this movie after you've watched it, because we were sitting here like, this ain't even half the conversation that we had while watching it. We did rewind several times, but tell us what you thought of this movie. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us on Facebook at Movies That Move We. And you can also find our playlist, Movies That Move We, on the Tube of You. YouTube. Okay. Anyway, you can find us there. Tell your mama, tell your friends. We'll be back next week. We got another horror movie lined up, don't we? I think we got a couple that we can pick from. We'll let you know. Yeah. Pay attention to the banner on our Facebook page, because that's where we announce the next one, usually about midweek.
Yeah, I think we do have another one lined up. I just forget the title.
Yeah, I have to go look at my notes. I'm sorry, I didn't jot it. But anyway, until next week, tell your mama, tell your friends. We'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye.